Greetings from the Dubai, ladies and gentlemen. And I've got two guests here. One is out of UK and another one is sitting in Berlin, Germany. Tourism is regarded as a substantial industry, accounting for 10% of world GDP, 7% of international trade, and 30% of service operations. It is well known that tourism is an activity that contributes to the development of many countries, but despite its economic strengths, tourism remains one of the most sensitive and vulnerable sectors to internal and external crises. Tourism has an incomparable capacity for resilience, however. Unlike previous crisis of COVID-19 is different and unpredictable. Hence, the pathway to recovery is also uncertain. Many unique tourism businesses are trying to survive, but many are also trying to reinvent themselves and trying to carve their own niche as we speak. Ladies and gentlemen, I am eager to introduce to you a very interesting conversation of the current concerns for our industry and much more with two very special guests that we have, Mr. James Clarke, Senior Executive and General Manager, UK, and Mr. Christain, General Manager, Germany. Together, they sit at the helm of a phenomenal organization. It is Travelzoo. Travelzoo provides 30 million members insider deals with travel and tourism. I believe it's in aviation and hotels and a few other activities which we will talk about. With 13 offices worldwide, its finger on the pulse of outstanding travel, entertainment, and lifestyle experiences. The company actually is over 20 years old and has worked in partnership with more than 5,000 top travel suppliers. And its long-standing relationships give its members access to some incredible deals. Travelzoo is one of the original brands that always brought the best travel deals to its consumers. This I discovered, at least for myself, for the first time today. For those that are finding out about them just now or have been skeptical about their offers, I'm here to bust the myths behind them. I'll be diving into how does Travelzoo work? Is Travelzoo even legit? And are their travel vouchers worth it? So let's get started. So what is the story of Travelzoo formation? Since it was founded in Germany, I will start off with you, Christian.
Well, our mission was always to provide very good travel offers. So basically what we do is that we screen the market. We do this in various markets across the globe. We have an international team sourcing basically offers, then working with the supplier, make them unique and have an added value. It's not necessarily always a discount. It can also be an added value. And then we push it out by our media.
Okay. And I believe Travelzoo essentially acts as a third party that refers you to travel discounts and offers. Tell me, how does it work, James?
So in essence, to what Christian said, we work with a variety of advertisers and partners across hotels, tour operators, packages. We work with local businesses in many of our markets, so restaurants, activity-based businesses. And in essence, we're a storyteller. We like to inform our members, who we treat as our friends, about these exciting deals and experiences that they can take up. But the most important part is that our business is based around a membership. We don't actively go out and promote our deals via Google campaigns or, kind of flashy gimmicks. It's very much about trust and inspiration. We trust our partners. We work with our partners to create these amazing offers. Sometimes we're involved in the collaboration with them about building offers. And there's other partners who've got lots of products who we work with and display their products. But we share that with our members in a manner that's built on trust. So particularly through a pandemic, which we'll talk about, that trust was important and actually came about and paid back dividends, you could say, to Travelzoo, because we've built up this trust over a long time.
Okay. So that's a very important point that you have raised, James, about trust. So obviously the pandemic on global tourism has carried on into 2021 with the new data showing and 87% fall in international tourist arrivals in January as compared to 2020. Following a difficult end to last year already, global tourism suffered further setbacks in the beginning of the year when the countries tightened travel restrictions all over. The tourism barometer has been going up and down. So what are the challenges of the travel market currently? Could you please share your perspective for the travel sector? That's to you, Christain.
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest challenge right now, and I think we can say this is across the globe, is the uncertainty. No one really knows when can we regroup to travel, and I think this is on both sides, the demand and the supply side. Is the uncertainty basically, and uncertainty depends on when do the borders open, what is our progress with vaccine, and these are the fundamental questions. And you see the countries or the markets also developing or responding very differently there. And I think I can speak for the entire industry that these are the biggest challenges right now.
Okay. And James, you want to add to that?
Yes, I completely agree with Christain. Uncertainty in the market is key, and in every market. And for the first time, what we've really seen around the globe is every market is behaving in a different way. So that creates even more uncertainty because there is no global rule at the moment for travel. And we've actually probably taken it for granted in previous years where everyone could just get on a plane and travel. Everyone could visit a hotel. Now, this has been very much changed and locked down around rules and regulations. And at the heart of that is a virus, which is a health pandemic. So this is so, should we say, unique compared to previous maybe events that have affected travel and tourism around the world. And if you look back, things such as terrorism or even small viruses like the Zika virus, which still had an effect, it was very much localized. So it never affected the global tourism.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think that you've touched a nerve about the uncertainty here. Absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, we all know that 2020 has been in shambles with millions around the world in lockdown. The research shows that if international mobility and travel is resumed by June this year, it will significantly boost the global and country levels GDPs, as at least through job creation in the sector itself. So a lot of our audience here are governments that we as an organization tap into it. So talk to us a little bit, you know, the significance of this, that how travel and tourism can contribute to the GDP, you know, of a country. And because I think that's a very important message to be had at this point. Christain.
Well, I mean, travel obviously contributes everywhere to the GDP. I think the global number is 10% in workforce, but also in global GDP. Obviously, it differs from country to country. From a European perspective, obviously, the countries that are highly dependent on travel is like Greece and Spain and Portugal. And for other markets, it might be less important, but generally it's important for everyone. I mean, the good thing is that we see light at the end of the tunnel right now. Some countries are making more progress with the vaccinations and others less. The good side also, and the big opportunity for most markets, is basically domestic travel right now. This is what we saw last summer already, and we see a good spike in domestic demand right now, which basically doesn't mean that people are not looking forward to travel to Greece or to other long-haul destinations, but it's just a little bit delayed, I would say, and really depending on the circumstances of the individual country.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, James, you want to add something?
Yes, I was just going to say, when we look at the GDP derived from travel and tourism around the world, one of the factors we probably need to consider most is that whilst there's lots of areas of maybe more niche and smaller tourism that drives the GDPR for markets, there are kind of three large drivers that are the high level, and that's the standard tourist who comes and visits a country. So you've got your inbound tourism, you've got your domestic tourism that Christian highlighted, and the other one that's going to be probably the longest to recover in this is business travel, which we all forget business travel is still a form of tourism. And markets like the UK, Berlin, which host Spain, Barcelona, Madrid, who host massive conferences and events that drive business travel. And for those that have a lot large financial districts and lots of business that travels there, these markets have now been adapted to a virtual world. And it's going to take a while to recover that market. And now that bodes actually as an opportunity for lots of partners and businesses like Travelzoo, who can highlight the more affordable way of traveling and visiting maybe cities now, because there's an abundance of stock and availability.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. That's the sense we are also getting very nicely put. So last year, 2020, Travelzoo won Germany's Best Deal Award, a big success amid the pandemic. I want to talk about something positive now. And also Travelzoo won Best Travel Deals Finder for 9th consecutive year at the British Travel Awards. How significant was that, Christian?
I mean, first of all, obviously, we are being proud as a company to be rewarded as a team for what we do. For us, this is particularly important because the fundamental asset we have as a company is an audience. So being rewarded for our product offering, for our deals, for our customer service is highly rewarding and engaging for us and motivating as well. And I think one of the reasons we might be doing better than others is that basically when the pandemic kicked in, we changed our entire product offering to a fully flexible, fully refundable offering. And for us, we saw this coming very early. This was the only way to still motivate people to lock something in for the future, because the desire, the demand is still there. This hasn't, this is not gone. No? I mean, people will travel and this will resume, and everyone wants to dream. And people basically book occasions, vouchers with us, and then redeem them later.
Right. And who, because we have a big audience in Africa, some of them may not have heard of Travelzoo. By the way, I love the name. Okay, so, who is the others that you just now mentioned? Who is the competition?
Well, I don't necessarily mean competition in that sense. I think the big mistake that I have seen, or a challenge I have seen in the entire industry, is that while the pandemic kicked in, a lot of companies sent their employees on furlough. Yes. They basically reduced the working hours. They obviously everyone had challenges back then, but at this time you need to be even closer to your customer, and you need to be able to refund very quickly. So basically, while others decreased customer service, we blasted up. And for us, it was crucial to stay in touch with our members and basically serve their needs and answer the questions. And I think this is what I mean when I speak about others, and I would mean everyone, the entire industry.
Okay, and that's good. So I'm getting the sense is that you're really building a community here. I mean, it's a community, there's a sense that it's a Travelzoo tribe that needs to communicate, and the platform is serving that purpose, you know. So I like that comment that James made about storytelling. So it's now beginning to form a picture.
If I could add, one thing that Christian pointed out, and I will endorse, is we always communicate to our members efficiently and effectively, and that didn't change during COVID. So even when we entered the pandemic, we made quite a big decision as a business to stop sending out our flagship email, which is the top 20 on a Wednesday, But we didn't just stop sending it out and say nothing about it. We all communicated to our members in those regions and explained that right now isn't the time to send out travel deal and in content. In fact, we'll take a pause, we'll reflect, and when we have enough content to send you, or we have something exciting to tell you about, we will share it with you. And the response that we received in all of our markets was that our members appreciated that we were listening and taking the situation into context. And I think that's an important part of Travelzoo. We communicate effectively, and our reviews throughout the pandemic have been extremely high because they mention the trust built up between our communication and the honesty in our approach.
Right. James, I'll continue talking to you. Just explain to me a little bit. So do you need to pay a fee to be a Travelzoo member? How does the Travelzoo voucher allow Travelzoo members to lock in savings that the industry has not seen for decades? And are these vouchers fully refundable? I know that some of my team members made some comparisons to a few others, but these seem to be much better.
Yeah, that's great to hear, and that's what we pride ourselves on. So yeah, let me explain about our voucher model. So our vouchers are 100% fully refundable, and what that means is a customer can purchase a voucher for the deal that they've seen on our site, and that allows them that once they've purchased it, they can then contact the hotel or the partner that we've got the voucher with and make their reservation. Now, what we do is we protect that member and do not pass on any funds to that hotel, to that restaurant, until they've had their experience, which means up until that period of time, if they cancel or change their mind, they can log into their member portal, click refund, and within 72 hours, that money's back in their account. Now, during a world of uncertainty and lots of changes, this has been a huge success for Travelzoo because customers are excited that they can lock in a deal now, even if it's for travel for next year. They are completely protected should their circumstance change or should the world be turned upside down again. But at the most point, it's because people are still excited about traveling again. So we realized this very quickly into the pandemic when we slowed our email sends. Our members were actually coming back and saying, no, I want to book travel. I want to go on holiday, because we've all been locked at home and all we want to do is dream about traveling again. So the vouchers allow people to start forward planning their travel again in a way that protects them in case anything changes.
Thank you. Okay. So things are changing. Just building up on what you've just said, and a vaccine passport or e-vaccination certification of compliance for border crossing regulations could be required to enable that seamless border crossing. Any framework that comes into place will need to be harmonized by a formative body such as WHO to ensure that it's used as ethical and fairly. And European Commission proposes a digital green certificate for the EU. For some countries across, access to vaccine is increasingly a reality. For example, where I'm sitting in Dubai, and in fact, they've just launched their own indigenous vaccine as well, and millions of vaccines have been purchased and administered. And Dubai or UAE is not the only country. This is happening, the rollouts are happening. So how strategic could such vaccine passport be for the future of the industry? Christian.
So let me take this. I mean, I would say it's quite early stage to talk about this. No, the ambitions from the EU are quite demanding. No, I mean, we talk about June. Today is the 7th of April. I don't see this coming in June, and there's a lot of questions that needs to be sorted out at this point. Right now, the plan is to launch it in June, as I said.
Yeah.
And it's very important to say that people that didn't have the vaccine yet, they will not be excluded. So you can basically upload a negative COVID test, and then you have to pass for 48 hours, I think, is what they plan to do. But there's a lot of challenges. Will it be only for the EU? Can we travel long haul? What about other people if they have vaccines that are not accredited in the EU? For me, my personal opinion, this seems to be another project that will take a while. And I think it's a good idea, but it will take a while.
Really, that's interesting. That's interesting. And you've got your pulse on the finger of what's going on there. So it's interesting to hear that, because I think the media also makes a lot of hype about these little announcements. And yeah, and James, what's your opinion on this?
So I think the first bit of good news is exactly what you pointed out, which is vaccines now are being rolled out on a mass scale.
Yeah.
Markets, Israel, the United States, the UK, I know we're leading the charge, but everyone else will certainly catch up as the production of vaccines that started last year are delivered. So the positive for the world is we have enough vaccines that will be distributed. From a personal opinion, a vaccine passport will always touch on the boundaries of disclosure of information, data protection, and in Europe in particular, that is a soft point. The Europeans have voted before about the security around their information and how it's displayed. However, on another side, I also know that when I've traveled internationally before and had to have yellow fever or a hepatitis jab, I have done so without even thinking, and I've had to prove that I've had that vaccination. So there is a limit to think, can we not make it more simpler, where if someone has been vaccinated, they have proof, and if they are exempt or void of having that because they've had a negative test, then that is also accessible. Are we maybe overcomplicating it with a digital passport, where maybe something like a small online printout that would be sufficient? At the end of the day, though, there's always loopholes, and I think what the industry leaders, and I refer to the people who run our countries, are afraid of are outbreaks and additional waves in COVID, which could set them back. So I think that's why they're going with the strictest option at the beginning, but I imagine they will end up with something slightly more flexible.
Right. So I'll just continue with yourself, James. Just you know, so all global regions have been hit hard. So vaccine passports or no vaccine passports, one thing is clear. The world today is not unified in their approach, okay? And there are some countries who are being able to reimagine tourism, but then it's 10 steps, one step forward and 10 steps back, you know, because circumstances are different in each country. And this is the first time that we are seeing that the whole globalization, you know, does not work anymore, that one size does not fit all the countries. It cannot be a cookie cutter operation. So how nimble organizations like yours, who are truly a global organization, you're on the stock exchange, you know, how are you adapting your strategy to match all these different various models that each country is adapting to? I mean, what are your key markets? Obviously, UK travelers and German travelers are important, but do you think this is the time also for you to reimagine your own product? How does a strategy even work under these circumstances?
So it's a brilliant question. It's a brilliant question. And, you know, I had a saying which I said when I was interviewed recently, which was, no business could have prepared for this, no business, but every business will be held accountable for how they've acted since the pandemic. And I think from Travelzoo's perspective, are there things that we would have done differently? Probably so, but are there things we're proud of for how we behaved and how we conducted ourselves? 100%. And whilst we have lots of markets around the world, one of the maybe unique elements to Travelzoo is we actually work extremely close as an executive team. You know, Christain and I speak daily. He runs Germany, I run the UK. So there's always a transfer of information between our markets. We speak to our US GM, we speak to our French and Spanish GM. We speak to our Canadian GM. So there's always this funnel of information. So we work very closely as a senior team. So I think that's really important. And that's something that has maybe set Travelzoo apart. The second thing that made Travelzoo probably more successful than some of the businesses in the market was we recognized very early on that we had to pivot our business. We couldn't just focus on certain behaviors that had worked in the past. And predominantly in those markets, it was the voucher model that we used, but also the focus on domestic travel. So many operators only focus on people leaving the country, but don't focus on the people who stay in the country. Now, thankfully, again, in Germany and the UK, strong domestic market. Our members love the domestic product. So that was another key for us, that we focused internally, especially in the US. In the US, you can go on every type of holiday in one country. So that was important. And I think the third part throughout all of this was our communication with our members, and how we just kept working with our customers and our members to ensure that we knew what they wanted by asking them questions, surveying our members, and allowing us to adapt our model to that ever-changing environment. And unfortunately, in this market and in this travel industry, lots of businesses have failed to do that, have failed to listen to their customers, and they've actually had to pay the consequence. But there's also the other businesses who have just been unable to do anything because the measures have prevented them. So like airlines, they've been extremely hard hit. But now is their opportunity to potentially shine, because as travel windows occur and travel opens up, there'll be opportunities for them to generate revenues again.
Right. So let's talk about a little bit, I want to know what are the current trends, but I do want to just, before I forget, it's an important question to ask, because I come from the world of meetings, or business tourism, that's or group travel. And the COVID-19 crisis will have an impact on the propensity of tourists to travel in groups, that's for sure. And on the purchase of group packages. There's a strong consensus that group travel will reduce substantially, and the era of individual nomads is here to stay. What is your opinion on that? I would love to hear about that. And then, Christian, if you can just a little bit talk about the trends, the new travel trends that you are seeing in the German market, and yourself, James, for UK market. Perhaps we can start with Christian.
I mean, generally, I would say a big trend, but I touched this earlier on, is the flexibility. I mean, this is definitely what the consumer wants and needs. Otherwise, it's very difficult, if not to say impossible. So that's it. I think from a trend point of view, we touched this as well. The domestic right now, we see a lot of demand for vacation rentals, basically for more spacious self-catering. And when it comes to group travel or to guided tours, we definitely see a good amount of demand there. But then it's more like smaller tours. I see a lot of self-driving tours where you basically give the people a map and you give them a car and they can do it themselves. And that's clearly a trend, what we see right now. I think
does this all fall under immersive tourism somehow? Do you think that immersive tourism, there will be a rise in that?
Well, I think another important trend is that we see a lot of demand for new destinations, for special destinations. So more like the lifetime opportunity. We see demand for like combinations between Orient Express and some cruises. If you asked me like probably 2 years ago, I would have said we cannot do any kind of volume for Africa, for example. Right. We have done great lodges right now in Tanzania, in South Africa, and there's clearly a demand. And this demand is not necessarily tied up to the price, because everyone knows that this is a different basket, it's a different experience. And I think end of this year or next year, will be the special opportunities, what people will be looking for. They have been starving for travel over the past, well, 12 months now, no? And unique experiences is what they want.
Okay. James?
So to answer both questions, firstly, regarding escorted touring and group travel, it will be at consequence that people's mindsets will think group travel is greater risk. But if we're honest, if we're going on a city break or if we're going to a hotel, you're still mixing with other individuals. There's not many holidays you can go on where you do not see nobody or have contact with anybody. And I think, again, we talked about businesses who pivoted. There are already cruise lines who have come out and said, everyone who is on board this ship will be COVID immunized, which then creates this in bubble on a cruise ship and avoids people having that doubt about traveling on a cruise ship. So maybe escorted touring and group travel will end up on that same journey and we'll look to do that. But will you be able to protect everybody? You'll never be able to do that.
No.
Just like you would against the common cold, or you know, someone having an infection and passing it on. But looking forward, what do we know from our audience? Well, you know, we surveyed our UK members and we know that 72%, so a very large percentage, are interested about going to a new, an exciting or an unknown destination. So basically 3 in 4 people are saying, I don't want to go on holiday to where I've been before. I want to go somewhere new because I've missed out a year of my life traveling. And I think that's really exciting. We also know that over 1 in 2, so 56%, want to ideally go to a bucket list destination, a wish list. Like Christian said, now's the time for Maldives. It's the 5th highest on our search list for top 10 international getaways. We know Australia, Canada, Mexico, some of these amazing countries are on that top 10 for the first time, because more and more people who have been pent up during COVID are now saying, now's the time to go away and do that destination I've always wanted to do. So I think that's an exciting opportunity for the industry. And as always, that poses as an opportunity to those businesses who could potentially pivot into selling that product or advertising that product.
But all these countries that you've just mentioned, James, they are not off the beaten track. They are not new destinations. So I'll throw in 3 more for you in the mix, and maybe you need to go and explore those, okay? And you probably have those countries right now listening to Equatorial New Guinea.
Yes.
Yeah, let me maybe add something here. I mean, this is like the fundamentals of push media, no? I mean, you have push in marketing and pull. So pull basically aggregates demand, someone plugging in a destination. So if you do push marketing, you can do this, I don't know, via newsletters, you can do this via app pushes on social. Then you basically do a bit of storytelling and inform the people. And this is basically the fundamentals of our business. Most members basically registered with Travelzoo to get inspired about destinations, about offers, and then they basically book incrementally, something they didn't necessarily plan to do. So yeah, definitely new destinations is something very interesting.
I want to mention 3 here, 3 that we've been pushing, you know, we are working on, and we're working very closely with their tourism boards as well. Equatorial New Guinea, huge potential. I mean, when I mention Equatorial New Guinea to some of our friends and colleagues and they're like, where's that? It's the smallest country in Africa. Okay, and then you've got Gabon. So Rwanda has gorillas. Gabon has 10 times of those numbers there. Then there's the Chad, the unbeating heart of Africa, Chad. You know, so watch out for Chad. There is a lot of activity that is beginning to take place there. So all of these, they are literally, some of these countries are literally COVID-free, you know, and huge potential and resources, and you know, and they're eager to welcome tourists at the moment.
Well, I will take this opportunity to shout out and say, if any of those destinations are on board, please reach out to Christian and I, because we would love to work with you.
Lovely, lovely, great. I will make sure your message gets across. So, besides providing tourism services for tourists, what does Travelzoo do to educate its customers and members? Christian, this is for you, because the reason I'm asking this is that the pandemic has placed hygiene and quality of public care in a very important position. Thus, health standards and the performance of the host destination's health systems become factors that influence the travel decisions, right? So how do you get the messaging across?
Yeah, it's kind of what we touched on earlier, is that we basically do storytelling. We write about the destination, we write about safety precautions, about the COVID situation, the beauty of the destination, and we do it in our own tonality. And we can embed video, and we can embed engagement pieces such as quizzes in there, interactive maps. And that's is basically what increases the stickiness of the user and gets people to think about destinations and new places to go.
Okay. So it is clear that Travelzoo is really good at finding hot deals. This is what's coming through with a dedicated team of deal hunters or deal experts, as you call them. Are Travelzoo deals worth it? What's your final message here? James, with you.
Well, 100% they're worth it. I'm a Travelzoo member and a Travelzoo booker, so I trust everything we book. One of our recent deals in the UK was a 9-night Mauritius all-inclusive holiday for £399 per person. The deal was one of our best sellers, generated over 1 million in sales in the UK. It was fantastic. So these deals are exclusive to Travelzoo. They're unique. They have a finite window, which means you have to take the advantage and book them. And they're obviously protected. They're redeemable. If something goes wrong, you can get your money back, which is the big protection. But from my essence, what I love about Travelzoo more than anything is that every week we are refreshing the content. Every week there is something new and exciting. This week in the top 20 is our top deal, is our Tuscany break, which includes a Michelin star meal on the stay for 3 nights per person. Next week it will be something else. And I think one of the key benefits of Travelzoo is that content is fresh and exciting every week. It's not the same book you're picking up and reading through it and you know the end story. It's something new. So that's what I would say about Travelzoo.
Yeah. And maybe one more comment from my side, because you spoke about deal and savings, right? The savings, that's very important, don't necessarily are basically just slashing off the current rates. It can be easily added values. When we work with hotels, it can be a better room category, or we have a better deal, as we say, for certain days of the week. Let's say during the week, you get a better rate, basically. On the weekend, it might be more expensive, or it can be any other added value that a hotel can do. And this is basically the inspiring element in it. Maybe not everyone has experienced a suite in their life. And then if you do a suite upgrade or a sea view upgrade, that's like a
Okay. So there, thank you. This has been a phenomenal talk. You've educated me. It's not every day I get educated, so I've learned something really unique and special here. So there you have it, the good and the bad, mostly good about Travelzoo. Find deals fast, discover deals you didn't know you wanted, deep savings, but also added value. This isn't the case for all, but you can find some pretty killer deals on Travelzoo. I know, I checked it myself, okay? And ultimately, peace of mind. Again, focusing on Travelzoo vouchers, a cancellation policy really makes it easy to be at ease. In other words, if anything goes wrong, that's out of your control, they'll have you covered. So I think to me, it's given that next time you plan a trip, you've got to go on Travelzoo's site first and just take a look. Just give it a shot. That's it. Just give it a shot. You just never know what you'll find, Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. I've really, really enjoyed talking to you today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.